Hello, dear learners, and welcome back to English Flow. I'm Kim, and I'm really glad you're here. Before we start, if you're new here, subscribe, tap the bell, and if this episode helps you, leave a like and a comment. It really helps this podcast grow. Today, we're going to a hotel, and a hotel is actually a small world on its own. There's the front desk, where you check in and check out. There's your room. There's room service, if you want food brought to you. There's housekeeping, the team who cleans your room and brings you things like towels. There's the concierge, a person who gives advice about restaurants, taxis, and things to do. And there's often a gym or a pool too. We're going to visit almost all of these places today, one by one, with real conversations. Let's start where every hotel stay begins, the front desk. The front desk is the first place you go when you arrive. The person working there is called a receptionist, and their job is to check you in, give you your room key, and answer your questions. Let's meet Elena. She's just landed after a long flight, and she walks straight up to the front desk. The receptionist says, "Good evening. Welcome to the Riverside Hotel. How can I help you?" Elena replies, "Hi, I have a reservation under the name Elena Cruz." The receptionist says, "Let me check that for you." A moment later, the receptionist says, "Found it. One double room for 3 nights. Can I see your ID, please?" Elena says, "Sure, here you go." The receptionist says, "Perfect. Here's your key card. You're in room 412. Breakfast is served from 7 to 10 in the morning in the restaurant on the ground floor." Elena asks, "Great. Is there Wi-Fi in the room?" The receptionist says, "Yes. The password is on the back of your key card holder." Elena doesn't waste any time. She says her name and gets straight to the point, which is exactly how a real check-in sounds. Now let's look at 2 more ways to say the same thing. For example, Elena could also say, "I have a booking under the name Elena Cruz." Or she could say it this way, "I should have a room reserved for tonight." Now Elena is in her room, but not everything always goes perfectly at a hotel. Sometimes something doesn't work, and you need to call the front desk again to ask for help. Elena calls the front desk and says, "Hi, this is room 412. Sorry to bother you, but the air conditioning isn't working." The front desk staff member says, "Oh, I'm really sorry about that. I'll send someone up right away." Elena asks, "Thank you. How long will it take?" The staff member says, "About 10 minutes." Elena says, "That's fine, thanks." Quick note here. Sorry to bother you doesn't mean Elena did something wrong. It's just a polite way to start a request, like saying, "Excuse me," before you ask for something. Let's hear 2 more ways to report a problem. For example, a guest might say, "There's a problem with my room. The shower isn't working." Or a guest might say, "I think there's a mistake. My room is really noisy." Let's leave the room now and go to a completely different part of the hotel, the gym and the pool area. Many hotels have these, and it's completely normal to ask about them at the front desk. Here's Marco, another guest, asking a staff member. Marco asks, "Excuse me, does the hotel have a gym?" The staff member replies, "Yes, it's on the 2nd floor, open 24 hours with your key card." Marco asks, "Is there a pool too?" The staff member says, "Yes, the pool is on the rooftop. It's open until 10 at night." Marco says, "Perfect, thank you." These questions are short and direct. No need for anything fancy. Just, does the hotel have, or is there a? For example, you could ask, does the hotel have a restaurant? And you could also ask, is there a parking area for guests? Now let's talk about a service many hotels offer called room service, where the hotel brings food straight to your room. Here's a guest named Aisha calling from her room. The staff member answers the phone and says, "Room service, how can I help you?" Aisha says, "Hi, I'd like to order some food, please." The staff member asks, "Of course, what would you like?" Aisha says, "Can I get a club sandwich and a coffee?" The staff member asks, "Sure, anything else?" Aisha says, "No, that's all, thank you." The staff member says, "Great, it'll be with you in about 20 minutes. Notice "can I get?" This is a very common, friendly way to order something in a hotel or a restaurant. For example, you could say, "Can I get a bottle of water, please?" Or you could say, "Could I have some extra pillows, please?" Speaking of extra pillows, let's meet the housekeeping team. These are the people who clean your room every day and bring you things you need, like towels or soap. Here's a guest named Tom, opening his door because someone is knocking. The housekeeper knocks and says, "Housekeeping, would you like your room cleaned today?" Tom replies, "Not right now, thank you. But could I get some extra towels?" The housekeeper says, "Of course, I'll bring them right away." Tom says, "Thank you so much." By the way, if you ever want to avoid this knock completely, most hotels give you a small sign called "Do Not Disturb," which you can hang on your door handle. It's understood everywhere in the world. Now let's visit the concierge desk. The concierge is a staff member whose job is to give advice about restaurants, taxis, tickets, or things to see in the city. Here's a guest named Sophie asking for some help. Sophie asks, "Excuse me, could you recommend a good restaurant nearby?" The concierge replies, "Sure, there's a lovely Italian place 2 streets from here and a great seafood restaurant by the river." Sophie asks, "Which one is closer?" The concierge says, "The Italian place. It's just a 5-minute walk." Sophie says, "Perfect. Could you also call a taxi for me tomorrow morning?" The concierge asks, "Of course. What time would you like it?" Sophie says, "Around 8, please." The concierge says, "No problem, I'll arrange that." Here, "could you recommend?" is a polite way to ask for someone's opinion or advice. For example, you might ask, "Could you recommend a good place for breakfast?" Or you might ask, "Could you suggest something to do in the evening?" Sometimes a problem isn't about your own room. It's about noise from somewhere else in the hotel. Let's see how a guest named David handles that late one night. David calls the front desk and says, "Hi, sorry to call so late, but the room next to mine is really noisy." The front desk staff member replies, "I'm very sorry to hear that. I'll speak with them right away." David says, "Thank you. I really appreciate it." The staff member says, "Of course. If it continues, please call us again." And finally, we arrive at the last stop of every hotel stay, checking out. This happens back at the front desk on your final day. Let's return to Elena, who is now leaving after her 3 nights. Elena says, "Hi, I'd like to check out, please." The receptionist asks, "Sure. How was your stay?" Elena says, "It was great, thank you." The receptionist says, "I'm glad to hear that. Just let me check your bill." "Okay, you didn't have any extra charges. I just need your key card back." Elena says, "Here you go. Could I get a receipt, please?" The receptionist replies, "Of course, I'll email it to you. What's your email address?" Elena says, "It's elena.cruz@email.com." The receptionist says, "Perfect, sent. Have a safe trip home." Elena says, "Thank you so much. I really enjoyed my stay." Before we move on, here's one more useful phrase. If you want to stay a little longer in your room on your last day, you can ask for something called a late checkout. For example, you could ask, Is it possible to get a late checkout? Or you could ask, could I keep my room until 2 in the afternoon? So today we walked through an entire hotel stay. From the moment you arrive to the moment you leave. We met the receptionist at the front desk, the housekeeping team, the concierge, and even called room service. And in every single situation, the English was simple and direct. You don't need difficult words. You just need to know what to say and when to say it. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Before we go, let's do a little homework together. Here's your homework for this episode. Imagine you're checking into a hotel. Try saying 3 things out loud. How you tell the receptionist your name, 1 question about the hotel's services, and 1 request you might make to housekeeping. Try to say all 3 without stopping. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and leave a comment telling me which hotel situation you found most useful. And if you haven't listened to our previous episodes yet, go back and check them out. They're short, so you can listen every day. I'm Kim. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in the next episode. Take care of yourself and keep flowing.